They say revenge is poison, that it eats away at your soul. Maybe they're right. But let me ask you, what would you do if the person you trusted most stole everything from you, smiled in your face, and left you to bleed in silence? Would you forgive? Or would you make them pay? This is not just a story. It's my life. And tonight, you're going to hear exactly how I turned betrayal into justice. My name is Clara Jensen, 30 years old, born and raised in Seattle. If you listen closely, you'll hear more than just a story. You'll hear the echoes of choices I never thought I'd make. I grew up in a house that worshipped loyalty. My mother taught me that promises were sacred, and my father, a Navy veteran, drilled into me the value of trust. So when I met Marcus Hale, I didn't question the way he looked at me, the way he spoke my name like it meant something. He was magnetic, ambitious, the kind of man who made you feel like standing beside him was enough to change the world. We built a life together, or at least I thought we did. At first it was modest. A small apartment overlooking Pike Place Market, cheap dinners, whispered dreams about the future. But Marcus was hungry. Too hungry. His startup began attracting investors, money started pouring in, and suddenly our lives shifted from ramen noodles to rooftop champagne. It should have felt like a dream. Instead, it was the beginning of my nightmare. The first cracks weren't loud. They were whispers, credit cards in my name I'd never applied for, late-night meetings that didn't add up, text messages he'd tilt his phone to hide. Every time I asked, Marcus smoothed it over with a smile. "You're overthinking," he'd say. And because I loved him, I silenced my doubts. But the truth doesn't stay buried. One gray Tuesday afternoon, I opened our joint account to pay bills and found it drained, tens of thousands gone. When I confronted him, he didn't even flinch. He told me it was a temporary move, that I wouldn't understand the complexity of his deals. But the look in his eyes? That was the first time I saw him clearly. It wasn't love anymore. It was calculation. Weeks later, the storm hit. Federal agents came knocking, files in hand, fraud, embezzlement, and all under my name. Marcus had been laundering investor money through accounts linked to me. Every forged signature, every false loan, my identity was the weapon he used to build his empire. And when it crumbled, he left me buried in the rubble. You'd think I'd run to the cops, beg for justice. But men like Marcus don't just cheat women. They build fortresses of lawyers, allies, and shadows that protect them. The system wasn't built to catch men like him, so I stayed quiet. But silence is not weakness. It's strategy. I started collecting. Late nights copying files from his laptop while he snored in bed, memorizing bank transfers, photographing documents he thought were hidden. Every lie he spun became a thread I wove into a noose. But revenge isn't about fire. Fire burns too fast. Revenge is ice, slow, sharp, patient. Marcus loved attention. He craved the spotlight, the admiration of men who wanted his money and women who wanted his charm. So I used it. I leaked small stories to the press, anonymous tips that turned curiosity into headlines. I whispered to investors, dropped doubts into conversations. I rerouted his shipments, stalled his projects, made his empire stumble, and when his pride had him staggering, I delivered the kill shot. A single flash drive. Every forged document, every illegal transfer, every betrayal, packaged neatly and sent to the very men he had stolen from. Not the law. No, the law would have taken years. I sent it to the people who demanded blood when money vanished. The night it all came crashing down, I met Marcus outside a gala. He was drunk on champagne, drunk on himself, the city lights reflecting in his smug smile. "Clara," he slurred. "Whatever you think you know, you don't understand." I handed him an envelope. Inside the drive. "It's already over," I said. "They know. Everyone knows." For the first time in years, I saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. Within a week, Marcus was gone. Some say he fled the country. Others whisper darker endings. Me? I don't care. Because revenge isn't about watching your enemy fall. It's about making sure they'll never rise high enough to hurt you again. Now I live smaller, quieter. No rooftop champagne, no expensive lies. Just steady work, my own name cleared, and a peace that isn't pure but balanced. Do I regret it? No, because betrayal doesn't just steal your trust. It steals your future. And sometimes the only way to reclaim it is to make sure the betrayer never walks free again. So, to the people listening right now, ask yourself, if the one you loved most destroyed you, what would you do? Would you forgive? Or would you take back what was stolen?